Okay, Vaeschanan, Likkutei, page 22. We started this mimer last week. Okay, the Alter Rebbe is explaining that Mipsari Echsa Lakam, he's speaking about the rakia that separates. So he says that just like the blood originates in the heart, goes to all parts of the body, the same thing, that Sur Levavi, Hashem is the hashpa of the whole world. And there's two types of sustenances. There's a sustenance in internal, which is called Mayim El Yonim, which is the pleasure of spirituality. And then you have the hashpa, the sustenance of physical enjoyment. And the ultimate goal is to realize that there's no purpose of the physical enjoyment. It's all basically for the purpose of spirituality. And then, okay. We'll start on page 22, like 15 lines in the top of the page. So he says that speech also originates in the heart, the air, and then it comes into the formation of letters and so on. So he says, we'll understand the way this is up in the spiritual realms. What does it mean? Because the Maimon is based on the pasuk Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So what does Hashem Elokeinu, the double name of Hashem, represent? He says that Neshama is Yisrael Olu b'machshava. The Neshamas come from the level of thought, which is Gavar Yosef b'chinas Hamshachar b'chinas Dibur. Now he says like this. Chazal tell us that Neshamas Olu b'machshava. They came from a high level of Hashem's thought. Everything else in creation was created with words. So we find two uniquenesses about the neshama. Number one, it says Hashem blew the neshama. It doesn't say Hashem said, let there be a neshama. Hashem says, let there be man. That's the physical body. Then the pasuk says Hashem blew into Adam a neshama of life. What's the difference between blowing and talking? So we learned many times that talking is air coming out, but it's very external. If you could talk, you don't get tired. Blowing, your whole guts are coming out, so to speak. Your kishke, your whole intestines are coming out, and therefore it takes much more power to blow than to speak. So when you say that the neshamas of the Jew were blown into Adam Rishon, means it's a much greater, deeper level of Hashem's revelation than anything else in creation. Everything else in creation was created external level of godliness. Hashem spoke, so to speak. And this is an internal level. Another difference, everything was created from speech, but the neshamas olu b'machshava. They come from a high level of thought. Okay, now thought also has letters, just like speech. You think in certain language. But what's the difference between thought and speech? Speech is very external to somebody else. Thought is a revelation only to yourself. Which means, basically, that everything else in creation was an external revelation of Hashem. It came out, like we learned Shayach Mamuna, they appear to be separate entities. But the neshama, which comes from thought, that means it's still within Hashem himself. So neshamas are infinitely greater than speech. You find a similar thing. On the 6 days of creation, Hashem spoke, created through speech. On Shabbos, Hashem stopped creating. That means he stopped speaking. So the question, how does the world exist on Shabbos? The answer is, on Shabbos, the world is on a higher level of sanctity because it comes from Hashem's thought. Hashem on Shabbos creates the world with thought. There's a much greater, deeper revelation of godliness. So that's the uniqueness, he says, between. And he says, and even greater than the angels, because the angels were also created with, like it says, Hashem made all the angels with the spirit of his mouth, with the air of his mouth. What?
You said that the Shema of the Jews came, God blew.
Right.
If everybody
but they not the level of neshama.
But it all came from one.
I understand. But then it says, Atem Kriyim Adam, that the Jews are called Adam. Therefore, this uniqueness of a neshama, of a godly soul, is only found by a Jew. By a Jew.
So from Adam actually there were two different
Correct,
streams of,
correct, correct.
In thoughts, there are different levels.
Sure.
So the neshama of tzaddikim come from different level of thought, or is it because they stop in different words coming down?
Both. But even a thought, if you have to speak something, you have to make a speech, yeah? In your thoughts, you're formulating your words in thought. That's already tangible letters of thought.
Yes.
But sometimes you think it's not so much tangible in letters yet. Because you're not thinking how to form words. So that's also letters. You got to think in letters. But that's a more refined level of letters.
What about if you say without thinking?
Yeah, which is very common. And then,
No, is that possible?
what?
Is it possible to say anything?
No, it's not possible to say without thinking, because you have to think how to form the letters. But it means without normal thinking.
What about autopilot? When you're davening and you're
Autopilot.
thinking about the
Autopilot.
Exactly.
You're still thinking the words. If you don't think, you can't say. You have to think how to form the words.
But if you're thinking about something
But it's very
else,
external.
if you're thinking about something else and the words are just coming out, then you're definitely not thinking about
It's
it.
autopilot.
I'm very encouraged.
There's hope for you yet. In other words, he says like this. The word echad, we have the word yachid, which means singular, the only one, and echad means one. Now by definition, when you say it's one sefer, that means there's more svarim. Like it says, Yom echad, it doesn't say Yom yachid. Yachid means it's the only one. Echad means it's one of many. That's the definition of one versus singular. Echad versus yachid. Now in Shema we say Hashem echad. What are you supposed to think? It says in Allah when you say Hashem echad, that Aleph refers to Hashem, Ches is 8, 7 heavens and earth, and Dalet the 4 corners of the world. So the 7 heavens and the 4 corners of the world means all 6 directions, up and down in the 4 corners. They're all subservient to the Aleph. But that word echad automatically means there is a world which is subjugated. Yachid means there is no world. There's only Hashem. Right? So we know Chassidus always asks the question, all the Mefarshim really ask the question. Why do we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? We should say something greater. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Yachid. Yachid is greater than Echad. So why do we say Hashem Echad instead of Yachid? So the explanation is that sometimes if you say nothing exists versus something exists but it's bottle, that bittul of something existing being bottle is greater than if there's nothing else. I'll give you a simple physical mashal we learned many times. There's one store in a neighborhood and the store is doing well. That doesn't prove the store is a good store because there's no choice. When is the proof that the store is running well? When you have competition, you have 2 stores, and yet this store is number 1. That's a much greater number 1 level than if it's the only store. If you would say in Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Yachid, that means, there's no world, so Hashem's there. Of course, there's no competition, so to speak. But now there's 7 heavens and earth, and you have the whole world, and that world is Batul Hashem. That's a much greater level of Bittul than it would be Yachid. But he says, the Alter Rebbe is going to say now, but when can you use the word Echad? Only when world exists. In Hishtalshalis. When there's worlds, then you could, like he says now, When can you only say the word echad? When there's Shemayim va'aretz, which are shishik, savis, ruchnim, v'gashmim, the 7 directions, 4 northwest, north, east, southwest, and up and down. So then when there's a world of, there's a dimension of time and place, then you could come along and say that there's echad. Vo yizbarach echad b'em fishim b'telim elav yizbarach. Avo b'chinas havaya lekeinu, but the level of havaya, am shochem b'chinas yachid. That comes the level of. The Alter Rebbe asked the question at the beginning of the Maimer. Why does it say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad? Why does it say twice the name of Hashem? It should say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Echad. God again Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining there's 2 levels of Yudkei Vavkei over here. There's a level of Yachid and there's a level of Echad. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu represents the level of Yachid. That Yudkei Vavkei is Yachid. There is nothing else. Then you have a lower level of Yudkei Vavkei, Echad, that even when there is a world, there's completely bottom. So in the pasuk of Shema, you have Yachid, Hashem Elokeinu, and then you have Hashem Echad, which is Echad. Which basically means Yichud Ilah and Yichud Tata. Which Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, what does it mean? The higher level of unity and the lower level of unity of Hashem. The higher level of unity means there is nothing but Hashem. There is no world. That's Yichud Ilah, which is called Yachid. Then you have Yichud Tata, meaning there are worlds, yet the worlds are bottled to Hashem. That's the level of Echad.
I thought Shema was Idah and Baruch Shem was Tata.
Everything is relative. Shema compared to Baruch Shem is Yichud Ilah versus Yichud Tata. Now, in Kedusha, does Chesed have Gvur and Gvur have Chesed? Yeah? Okay. In Yichud Ilah, there's Yichud Tata. In Yichud Tata, there's Yichud Ilah. Okay? So, generally speaking, Shema Yisrael is Yichud Ilah, and Baruch Shem is Yichud Tata. But there's Yichud Ilah and Yichud Tata in Shema Yisrael itself. Hashem Elokeinu is Yichud Ilah. There is no world. There's only Havaya. And meaning Elokeinu is Havaya. There is no Elokeinu. It's Havaya is Elokeinu. And then you have Hashem Echad. That's Yichud Tata.
But the Kavanah when we say Shema is that everything is Hashem.
Correct. To quote somebody in the shul, Ein Od Milvado. Yeah.
Speaker that put on the car.
Yeah. The only problem is that concept on the car sticker or is it in the brain and in the heart? That's the question. Where is Hashem Ein Od Milvado? Is it inside or outside?
Everywhere.
To have it on a car sticker, by the way, is very easy. To say it is very easy. You can say it 1,000. To feel Ein Od Milvado, that is the ultimate level of Kedusha. Yeah, eventually from the car. It depends if you have like we learned the other day. What type of car is it? That depends, Okay. So he says, Havachin is Havaya Lekeinu. Who am Shachah from the level of Yachid Shema Yachid, Vo Levadi Ukamayim Razal. Zere Yitzchak Yechidei, the state of Yitzchak Yechidei. Shubechinas Chaya, Chaim Shalamayla, Filu Mechinas Chaim Eruchnim. There's a level of Chai HaChaim, the life of life, i.e., the source of life, which is much greater than the level of life. Why? That's the level Va'ata Mechayes Kulam. B'chinas Va'ata Eizis HaDibor Me'ale V'ata V'hem Etzoy Sapep. We say in davening every day, Va'ata Mechayes Kulam. Simply means you, Hashem. Ato Hashem Ato Sisa said, you made the heaven and earth, Va'ata Mechayes Kulam, and you give life to everything. So the Medrash says, don't read it Mechaya, Ela Mahava. Doesn't only mean God, you give life to everything. You create everything. It's you're their existence. What's the expression ata? Ata is aleph taf hey. Aleph taf means from aleph to taf, from A to Z. All the letters of the aleph beis that created worlds. And the hey is the 5 formations of the mouth, how you speak. So what are we saying? Va'ata, this is what you're supposed to think, by the way, when you say it. Va'ata mechaya es kulam, the letters of the aleph beis, from aleph to taf, meaning Va'ata, your letters that created the world with, is not only mechaya, not only do you give life, but you actually created them. Utzva shemayim l'cham mishtachim, and it's all batul. Ata Hashem, yeah, you created the world, that's it. Va'ata mechaya es kulam. Therefore, utzva shemayim l'cham mishtachim, therefore everything is batul to you. When a person realizes their source, by definition, you must be nullified to the source.
The more you realize, the more nullified.
What?
The more you realize, the more nullified you are.
Correct.
That was the previous member of that class.
The more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. The real existence is the more nothing you are, nothing. Really, the more nothing a person feels himself, the more something they are. Because now they're bottled to Hashem, which is the ultimate substance. So the more nothing you are, the more something you are.
The more you look at yourself.
The more you learn, the less you know. What do you mean the less you know? The more you realize that you know nothing.
The more you learn,
It's not easy to be nothing.
Huh?
It's not easy to be nothing.
There are two chassidim. There are two guys. One guy saying, I'm a nothing. So the guy says, look who also thinks he's a nothing. Look who also thinks, I'm a nothing, but look who also thinks he's a nothing.
Last week we also said, the more you learn,